What's up, guys? We were running a bit late, so I figured, well, let's just go live and give you. We're playing around with the format, anyways, of how to introduce it. What do we want to do? An intro? Do we not? How do we want to do that? We're working with some partnerships, some stuff for the NFL season. So in the meantime, it's all season time. We're going to experiment. One of the things that Evan wanted to bring up, and I wanted to cover more actually, was season long because I've always had this idea that it's dying because it's losing its value. Where like if you look at the sports book, they can always sell you a promotion. They can sell you so many different ways to play the game. You know, you got DFS, you got best ball. There's no management when it comes to best ball. So like it works for the working man. You know, it works for the guy who has a family. It works for the the college age student who's in like dormitories and like very busy schedules. But I actually really enjoy the finer details of dynasty and like I really enjoy like waiver wires at like 5 in the morning and stuff like that. But the problem is it's hard to get that many people that are bought in and that kind of commitment level. And I'll be honest, that was one of the reasons I wanted to bring Evan on to this podcast and kind of have that commitment level and that dedication to our DFS lineup because I'm like, if this guy cares this much about redraft leagues and structuring a best in running dynasty, you obviously knew. And when you said you had a ranking, I'm like, okay, I got to know why. I got to have a purpose because if I knew your purpose, Evan, then I knew you were going to put, reasons behind or at least give me the sales pitch of why these 12 guys are important. So I'm just going to kick it to you. And I do have some questions. I think we can kind of have some back and forth banter on this as well. So just
No,
take
yeah,
it.
I'll absolutely open it up to you guys as soon as we get this started here. So, yeah, as you can see by the timestamp below, I released my top 12 redraft PPR draft rankings for just your plain leagues, no special scoring settings. Depending on if it's your work league, your home league, your family league, or competitive league, whatever that may be. I just released that yesterday along with positional rankings, which I'll get to in a moment. And I'm hoping this is at least helpful to everybody following me on Twitter at Barely Fantasy. If you happen to be listening, thank you. I decided to go top 12 here, not just because of the character limit for free accounts with Twitter, but just because I figured most of you are going to have questions for the first round of, okay, I got the 9th pick in the draft of this 12-team league. Who the hell do I pick? Here you go. These are at least the rankings I'm putting out there versus whoever else has theirs out there on whatever fantasy website you use. So I'll go through it real quickly here. I think it's pretty obvious that I happen to screw up my numbers here. I don't know how I have 5 on here twice, but we'll look past that a little later. So I think it's pretty a strong consensus that Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson, and Breece Hall are the absolute top 7. And then you get later in the first round, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, A.J. Brown. And as a bonus 13 by accident, I put in Travis Etienne. I'm a bit lower on Jahmyr Gibbs now that he's got the hamstring injury that he should be perfectly fine from. But even if he's healthy, I'm a little lower on him just because he's still splitting the backfield with David Montgomery because that's just the way Dan Campbell runs his backfield. I don't think I really have anything else special to say about anybody else. I'm just glad I at least got to throw in Travis Etienne because, as we saw even in best ball drafts, he's being slept on a lot. People are not taking him as early as I feel they should. So I'll give you guys a chance to feedback. I'll shut up for a moment.
Well, I'm just looking at it, like your first 7 are basically the 7 that go in some order. I've been seeing Jefferson drop all the way to the back end of that. Mm-hmm. But like that's basically the 7 I see go in every draft I've done. So like, and I don't have any disagreement with it either. Like I think that's probably the order they should go in. I personally, I think in my league took Bijan at 4 instead of Jamar Chase in my guillotine league and a few other leagues I've been in. But I'm high on Bijan, and I've made that known.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your back end where like you have the running backs in there, including Etienne, that normally have not been going, which means you left out Puka. You left out Marvin Harrison Jr. You left out Garrett Wilson, who would all be right there at the back half of the first round in normal drafts right now. But I agree with you. I would love to get one of these running backs over one of those three, honestly. And then maybe just grab that guy on the next second round over. But in more cases than not, they're taking the Puka and the Garrett Wilson and hoping to, and those guys are then hoping to grab Taylor or Gibbs or Barkley on the way around.
I love redraft leagues and I love dynasty leagues. I just view them as kind of a dying dinosaur, like a library, a museum. I love the concept. I love the people that are connected and committed to it. The reason I say it's dying though is because there's so much money up top in these best ball contests, or there's the quick turnaround of the DFS lineup that was like, well, if I'm right, I can be right for week one, and then I already have that money. I have that Christmas money for my kids. I have that fun money for Vegas with my friends or family, and so like I understand why this is appealing in some ways, but especially I'll go back to the game theory since you got the list up, Evan. Why couldn't someone just say, I'm just going to take a best ball ranking? Why is this better than a best ball ranking?
Because you don't play best ball the same as redraft. You manage your team in season, for one thing. And for a second thing, the rules are a bit different here, where you're not just trying to win your league at the draft. You just, at best ball, you just set it up and you hope it does well every single week. And you have to set the lineups yourself, and it's not going to just automatically pick the best players for you to stick in your starting lineup for the final score for every single week. So that's why that's not the same thing for the segment. But I don't want to get too far off topic here, just so I could go through the rest of these here so that we can move on to another topic as well.
Well, I mean, this is a good way. Like, this is a good start of the first round. So, like, something else we could talk about. Logan, you can share my screen here. I just put it up.
Yeah, well, I see it now.
So, like, this is the Millie from the last month, and like ADP up and down wise, and what everyone has been adjusting to. And I can even give it to last week. Who goes down, who's been going up. So, like, now that the preseason's been going out, it makes sense. Bo Nix is going up. Sam Darnold's going up with McCarthy going down, because we're finally getting solidified starters in places.
No, and I get your point, Evan, about having managed leagues, and you're going to have slightly different takes. Like, for example, I'm trying to think, but Adam Thielen, for example, might be more valuable in a managed league than he would be in a best ball league, because in best ball you're shooting for that high upside, right? So in a best ball, you're more likely to take a rookie than you would be like a proven veteran with consistency. But those are like small differences. I'm saying, like, I understand your point of thing. It is different. But, like, at what point is it different for the casuals? Because, like, me and you or Donnie or Gov could break down the small, minute details, but, like, where does it become really different for your average person that are just looking for, an average set of rankings?
I don't understand the question, and I'm not sure how that's relevant to what I'm trying to show off.
I don't understand what you're showing off and how it's relevant.
Relevant compared to best ball?
Compared to any fantasy rankings. Like, everything's going to move up and down. So why showcase season-long rankings as anything different than just like a projected outcome?
Well, the whole point is to start your league at the draft, and then in a redraft league, you're going to manage your team in season. Most people, at least in this format, as now we're getting in heavier into draft season, now that we're coming up to the end of August, going into Labor Day, where more leagues are starting to set up here. A lot of people get nervous about their first round, thinking, oh my God, what if I draft the wrong guy in the first round? I'm going to lose my league if I don't get the right guy. Everybody's got their particular draft rankings of 1 through whatever. For the sake of Twitter, I wanted to go through the top 12, if you pardon the accidental 13th numbering here, and get some quick rankings out there for those who may or may not be nervous about that first round. and try to plan their draft based off of just at least my personal views, opinions, analysis on the specific players that are typically going in the first round.
Which I will say, I don't disagree with anything you have on your list, other than now with the new injury news, I would have probably dropped Gibbs and brought back one of those receivers like Puka or Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, the only guy I'm down on this list is Gibbs as well.
Yeah.
But and honestly, if you drop it because of the injury news, you technically have 13 players anyway, so...
Well, yeah, like I said, I as I was starting to read this off, I was like, shit, I didn't count right. But I'll move forward here. So then I also got in all the major positions here as well. These are my top 12 quarterbacks, which I did count correctly. And I have Josh Allen at 1, Hurts, Jackson, Mahomes, Stroud. I moved Stroud a lot higher just because I love the targets that he's got. And I think people are way too low on CJ Stroud based on his targets. Joe Burrow, I'm still keeping at 6 along with Prescott. I think these 5, 6, and 7 are really close just because their offenses are stupendous. And Prescott is an elite passer when he's healthy and the offense is functional. Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray are my rushing upside guys that I have at 8 and 9. Goff I think Goff sometimes gets too little credit for being an elite passer as well, considering the Lions offensive system is really good as well. Brock Purdy is another guy I think is being people are shitting on him too much either for having that top 10 season. But I dropped him to number 11 because the 49ers offense is still damn good on the passing game. Having CMC to throw to is just easy money every time. But with the uncertainty of what's happening with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel too, for that matter, I can't raise him above number 11. And then I just have Jordan Love at 12 just because, well, Packers offense is always a decently oiled machine at worst.
Okay, so I remember this because I think I used most of the same rankings. We were very close.
Yeah,
when we made our rankings for best ball back in July, I'm pretty sure we were pretty close to this on our top 12 quarterbacks. Although I know specifically we had Richardson and Burrow flipped. We still had Dak at 7. We still had that same top 5.
I think Hurts was a little lower as well, but the same top 5, yeah.
I think you guys were as high on these two.
Yeah.
No,
I think we might have flipped it a
but
bit.
I think we were close on that. Like, I think we had it Hurts or maybe...
It's
I
close,
think we might have actually had it that still. Allen, Hurts.
I think I convinced Hurts down 1.
And to your point, we're all trying to do it together.
But moot point, I think the only difference is, so have you seen anything specifically that makes you change that now since you put this out there? Because that would be the one consensus thing we had was it went Stroud, then Richardson, then Dak, then Burrow.
Well,
is there any reason for that flip or anything you've seen or gleaned?
29 hours later, I don't have a different take on when I released my redraft PPR rankings. This part in particular, like I said, Josh Allen is just going to have that perfect combination of rushing upside and passing because even without Stephon Diggs, he's still going to have Kincaid as his top target, and I think Keon Coleman will take a little while to get going, but I mean, he seems to be getting the hang of things in preseason. And Jalen Hurts gets slept on a lot for having amazing passing targets as well, even if they don't use the tush push as much as I know Donnie has said this tush push is probably going to die. But even then, yeah, I mean, I hope I understood your question, right, Gov?
Well, I was specifically talking about Burrow and Richardson. Like I said, when we compare it to our old rankings, those are the two that are flipped.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've seen so far that has you flipping them and putting Burrow ahead of Richardson?
Yeah, so the Colts offense is not one that makes me confident is going to be that functional of a passing game. I think there's going to be plenty of Anthony Richardson trying to escape sacks outside of Quentin Nelson, who's a damn good guard. But Michael Pittman is the only target I trust in that Colts offense. I do not think Josh Downs is enough, and we don't know enough about Adonai Mitchell. And Jelani Woods is now out with an injury. I think he just had a surgical repair on his turf toe, which means they're going to have to figure out tight end now. And I don't think Kylan Granson, and we don't even know if their rookie tight ends are going to be good yet. So I have a lot of question marks about that offense.
Tight end was always a question mark, even with Woods. I don't know if Woods is any better than any of the other guys on their depth chart. But
yeah, that's the thing too.
And I can agree with that. Like, I definitely trust outside of the running game because I don't trust Zach Moss or. Well,
Moss is not there anymore. But
Moss
yeah.
is not there.
No, not in Indy, but it's Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. I don't trust Cincinnati's run game with Moss and Chase Brown.
Yeah.
But like I don't trust that to be anything special. So it is going to be Burrow and his weapons, but he does have Chase and Higgins, so like he has legit weapons.
And we don't know if Gesicki's going to fit in either.
And
we don't. But they never really,
I just don't
sparingly use the tight end anyway.
Well, Burrow likes his tight ends, but they're not going to go for deep targets. So all he needs to do is be able to be in the right spot. And I don't think that's a hard ask for Mike Gesicki.
See, I still stand by it, though, Evan. I look at these rankings, and I think you did a ton of work and deserve a lot of credit. I don't disagree with them. I think you could use these in best ball and be just fine. I still haven't seen any major difference. And, like, that's my problem. I don't know if it's just YouTube, if it's just the culture, people trying to be so different with their rank. Like, I would love just a more discussion, kind of what we're doing here, than everyone just being like, oh, well, I built these rankings for this format. And sure, there is ups and downs and different format adjustments, even like PPR versus standard. But I just wish there would be more people that would be willing to put on a list like you did here, Evan, and be like, even if you did get the numbers wrong slightly, but you're standing by these people, and I think it's a valuable discussion to have. Because truly, I don't see that much different in our best ball rankings. Now, of course, we did our best ball rankings with 3 people, so we were factoring out some more personality and some more just character differences between the 3 of us. But ultimately, give or take, these are pretty accurate. I think you could use these in any format, really.
Yeah, and I kind of go against the grain with certain fantasy analysts not being as high on guys like Brock Purdy, for example. So I just feel like that had to be put out there too.
But again, that's what I love about you is like, this because me and you hardly ever agree completely on any football take. But me and you have some really good takes because we both have very educated opinions. And to your point, I just wish people would do that more. They'd have these more discussion points. But it feels like people will sometimes have this like moon landing stance on whatever format they like the most. That's the stuff I find kind of strange.
So unless you guys have anything else, I'll move forward with running backs as well.
Let's take a look.
If anybody has anything negative to say about CMC, I'd love to hear it. But until there's some concrete proof, I cannot unseat him from number 1. Bijan Robinson, I'm moving up to number 2 because I think he's due for some 65 to 70% snaps with this new regime in Atlanta. I think the era of Tyler Algier is not going to be that prevalent unless Bijan, something terrible happens to him. Brees is a solid number 3 until I hear otherwise. He's capable of catching a lot of fucking passes in addition to doing very well running the ball on the ground, which I think is going to help for Aaron Rodgers. Saquon, Jonathan Taylor. I have Gibbs as my 6th best running back. I like Saquon and Taylor a little better just because they're not splitting with David Montgomery. ETN, I think, is in a slightly worse offense, which is why I couldn't put him over Gibbs. And then Derrick Henry, I rose up to number 8 because I think a lot of people are underestimating him just because he changed teams to the Ravens. But it's not like they're going to make Keaton Mitchell in a timeshare with Derrick Henry as long as there's nothing wrong with him. Yeah, they think he's old and they're scared.
And that Lamar's going to have 15 rushing touchdowns and will never get any red zone work. Fuck that. Henry's going to destroy behind that Baltimore offensive line.
Exactly. I think Kyren Williams is in his last season for being highly productive. Even if they have Blake Corum behind him to take some third down work for him, I think he'll still at least be a valuable running back. But I definitely sold him in Dynasty as a separate point that I don't think he's going to be that strong of a running back after this season. But I have him at number 9. I think he's better than Pacheco.
The Derrick Henry conspiracy. Continue, then I'll get onto it.
Pacheco is the. We've talked about this before. He's the beneficiary of a strong offensive line in Kansas City, and they don't have anybody else behind him who can get the job done as well, even in a timeshare. So you can trust him as the 10th guy. Alvin Kamara is still going to get a lot of good work on his heavy paycheck this season. I have him at 11, and then Jacobs I dropped off to a bit at 12 because, well, He's just simply not Aaron Jones, and I don't think he's going to do as good of a job, but I think you could trust him as the RB12.
Yeah, the only
I do like Jacobs a lot, but I still not sure I would put him ahead of 12. I'm definitely higher on it. I think he's a better running back in general than Aaron Jones. He's just always been in a different situation. And Aaron Jones has been in this timeshare where, like, the one thing in a timeshare you should be able to do is stay healthy. And Aaron Jones couldn't even do that. Well, I got a feeling it's going to be a lot of Ty Chandler at the end of the year for Minnesota. So load up on him.
The only thing I want to add on to this rankings is I pretty much completely agree with every single how the order is, but where they're going, I am definitely scared of drafting a Gibbs and a Brees Hall. I just don't like where they're getting drafted at, but I think the rankings are right.
Well, yeah, and if people reach on those guys at certain rounds, then it's like, okay, no problem. I'll get the next guy.
Maybe that's
the conspiracy on why Derrick Henry should be drafted.
Yeah, give it to us.
Here's why you know that he actually has stuff left in the tank. The only reason Jerry Jones doesn't have a fucking running game right now is because he thought Derrick Henry was going to come to Dallas, and be behind them. And then he goes to Baltimore, and now, what am I supposed to do? I guess I got Rico down. I'll re-sign Zeke.
And they could have gone after Miles Sanders or Dalvin Cook, but no, they had to go get Zeke.
Well, to be fair, I don't think those are much better than Zeke. So,
yeah, that's true.
With Miles Sanders being
eat that contract,
valid. We kind of paid him his money that Philly owed him.
But back to what Donnie was saying, because I think it was a good point, and maybe this is the start of kind of the difference. You know, you mentioned that there is differences between redraft and best ball. Donnie, when you were saying that, would best ball or redraft change your opinion on this ranking? And also, like, would you be more willing to take a guy at a position because you're like, well, I don't got to manage it. You know, it's best ball. If he has that big week, then I have him. In a redraft where you're more scared of that, because, like, I know you say you don't like where they're going, but, like, is that where we start to see the changes?
No, because I just think there's better value, later in the board. I don't feel like reaching that high for a running back that I don't 100% trust when I can get a Derrick Henry who I 100% trust, like 10 picks later, 12 picks, whatever it is.
Because, again, I still think you could use this in best ball just to say, I think these are good rankings.
Yeah, I hope you guys feel the same about my wide receiver rankings as for my top 12 here.
I don't.
Let's see. Before you say anything,
I love that Puka isn't as high as he seems to be going, though.
They're not terrible. Like, there's nothing that I'm, like, pounding the table I would lose my family for. Like, I would really take you to divorce court or something. Nothing like that. I mean, there's some slight differences. I'm lower on Chase than you are, but only by like a spot. You know,
I think wide receiver is definitely what you value out as a receiver more than anything.
Right. Which is, like I say, that's more of a character, and that's the thing with our best ball ranking too. We're fitting in so much different personalities or personal preferences that are down to the minute details that sometimes we're going to be slightly different, but nothing in this list.
Yeah, I agree with this list completely, except I'm a little higher on Devontae Adams. I'd probably have him ahead of Kupp and maybe even London.
So that's my biggest difference here in this list. I'm glad you brought that up, Gov, because I dropped Devontae Adams a few spots here because I also just realized that I put Drake London on here twice. God damn it. But I mean, looking past that, I'll have to look up to see who I meant to put at number 9.
No, you meant to put Devontae Adams at number 9 and Drake London just sitting there at 11.
Not actually. I did mean to put Devontae Adams at number 11. I have to figure out who I wanted at 9. I dropped Devontae Adams because I don't trust this Raiders offense to be productive anymore. The fact that they had such a hard time figuring out who to start at quarterback. I don't like their offensive line. I don't like Luke Getsy, period, at offensive coordinator. He has no business being an OC. And I don't think Zamir White is going to do a good enough job in the running game or really any other of their running backs for that matter. They're going to be hurting without Jacobs. So I don't like the Raiders offense as much, and I have to drop Davante Adams below the top 10 for the first time.
See, I'm still higher on the older guys than I am the younger guys, and I would much rather. I'm not drafting Garrett Wilson usually. I'm not drafting Puka. I'd rather Cup and I'd rather Adams over those two.
Is Drake London at 9 supposed to be one of the rookies like Marvin Harrison or Neighbors?
Yes, that's actually, thank you. That's exactly who that's supposed to be. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. that's supposed to go right there.
At number 9. Yeah.
At number 9.
Again, that's the one thing I definitely don't like. I would definitely have Davante ahead of him. But like, I haven't seen the drop.
Yeah, I mean,
look at the ADP drops. Like those are guys in the first round. They're not doing anything.
And that's why I was going to say, like, you still see movement, up and down. Your personal opinion is going to shift a little bit. I still think it's a good ranking. Obviously, I'm a lot higher on Adams than you are, but I think that was just known. Like, I just think that's a personal preference. That's a salt of pepper to taste.
Like, even with, like, I don't even know if I wish it was O'Connell. Like, I think Minshew's still fine to get Adams the ball a bunch.
Yeah, no, I definitely trust that to happen, which is why Davante Adams is still a first-round wide receiver. I just don't want him anymore over guys like Garrett Wilson, Puka, and even MHJ for that matter, because that offense I don't trust enough to get as productive. And it's not necessarily a big knock on Davante either. I would just rather have other guys who I would trust in a better offense.
I do think
I can see it. Like,
I mean, there's more touchdown upside in the other offenses. That's just true.
That, like,
I don't even care about touchdowns. I just want the volume for that matter. Davante Adams actually finished in PPR as number 10 last year and 11.5 PPR. So he fell off a bit last season in 17 games off of 175 targets. And I think the reason for that is just less, with different quarterbacks, less yardage and less red zone looks and less yards per touch. So that's, I would expect about the same this year too.
Yeah, and that would keep him right around 10 or 11. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to tight ends here. I hope I didn't make any typos here. Thank goodness. It looks like I didn't. Okay, good.
9, 10, 11, 12.
I honestly don't see a world where Kelsey isn't number 1 till he shows me he isn't number 1, honestly. But I'm not mad at these rankings.
Yeah, I expect Laporta to get better, and I expect guys. I don't know if Rashee Rice is going to be suspended at this point. Assuming he's not,
I doubt it.
Yeah, if he's not, I think that's going to take a little bit into Kelsey because I'm pretty sure Mahomes wants to get more targets involved than just fucking Kelsey all day. But it's a close 1 and 2.
Ones.
Yeah, it's a really close 1 and 2.
That's why I always wanted to merge the emotions of why we do things with the actual analytics of, like, here's the numbers and here's why I think this and here's my rankings, Evan, because your reason for ranking Travis Kelce, if you're weighing in the race factor, actually makes sense. Like, if you're just like, Travis Kelce's no good, I have number 2, it looks more, but when you explain things, it makes more sense.
I didn't put them. Yeah.
I'll have to see it to believe it. Kelsey's number 1 till he's not to me.
No, I still think he's wrong. I would still have Kelsey. No,
I don't think they're that far off in picks. I think they're like 5 different if I'm drafting them overall players.
It's not that big of a drop.
That's not a drop at all.
Travis Kelce is in tier 1, and everyone else is a far drop to tier 2.
I wouldn't even say far drop anymore, but I'm in agreement. Kelsey's a tier 1 tight end, and everyone else is behind from there on out.
But that's why I'm saying, like, that's why I wanted to merge the I didn't want to just do like a show with me and Gov and be like, here's the game theory behind picks. We're going to put this guy in our lineup. Okay, see you guys next week. Like, I want us to have reasons, and like that's why I know when you spend this much time ranking your players, Evan, I know you have reasons for all of these guys. And that's
I know. This isn't amateur hour here, Logan. I definitely have some thought behind it. It's not. I mean, we're not children here. But anyway, so I didn't necessarily put this in tiers like what you were saying, Logan. Like, yeah, I mean, if I wanted to do tiered rankings, I could, but this is just an oversimplified list for the sake of just something quick if you need positional rankings for the sake of just shit. Who do I take in the at certain rounds if I need a tight end? So
if you put a number by someone's name, you ranked them. In my opinion, I don't care what you say. If there's a number, there's a tier.
Well, it's my list anyway, so tough shit. Haha. No, I'm just kidding.
See,
anyway,
looking at this, like I would definitely like. Maybe it's because I'm not sure why, but like I am not as high on Dalton Kincaid as everyone is. So like I definitely would have Trey McBride over Kincaid.
I'm not ready to put McBride higher.
That top 4, like one of the reasons I would do that, not just because I'm down on Kincaid, but that top 4 of excuse me, of Laporta, Kelsey, Andrews, and McBride, I legitimately think one of those 4 could be the top tight end at the end of the year. I am not convinced that Kincaid can be, even if the Bills' offense is still clicking well. I think if the Bills' offense is still clicking well, Josh Allen has a bunch of rushing touchdowns, and weird guys like Shakir and Curtis Samuel have like 8 touchdowns on the season plus.
Yeah, I'm not banking on either of those guys at all.
Because like I've seen when they try to use it with Knox, like I just don't think I saw them try to use Kincaid last year. I don't see him taking this giant step where he can be like a top 4, top 5 tight end.
It's just that now that they don't have Diggs anymore, somebody's got to catch it.
That's true. And that's what everyone's banking on, is someone's got to catch it. And I honestly think it's more likely that it's running back James Cook. It's the weird wide receivers like Shakir or Samuel.
Shakir.
I'm not saying I don't see it all going to Kincaid like everyone has. So I have that top 4 of mine, and then I would have Kincaid down there with like he could probably still have a lot of targets in a good season, like Evan Ingram and George Kittle can have. But I would definitely flip it to have it like that as a tier.
I
guess Kyle Pitts is now at the end of that tier too.
Yeah. Honestly, I just think the tight end position's the best it's ever been. And
it is.
I mean, there's value in all these guys, but we know that there's only like 2 that you could consider receiver like value. And that's probably Laporta and Kelsey.
I mean, they all have receiver like value. They're all going to get their catches. That's we know there is an extreme like difference between Kelsey's workload and maybe not this year, but Kelsey's workload compared to a George Kittle. George Kittle's definitely more of a traditional guy. Their schemes are completely different too.
Their play styles are completely different.
Yeah, and Kittle's got more around him to work with, at least this year, compared to the Chiefs, where they have to figure out who can they develop too. But
I will say this. Like, after looking at the rankings, there are a few things that are just a little, like, they're little things that, like, what's the word? God damn it. Don't smoke weed, kids. Don't smoke weed. Correlations. There we go. Little correlations that in between your other lists that just like, okay, so for one, you have Brock Bowers here, this rookie, at 12. So you see him as like a top 10, maybe a top 10 candidate, top 12 tight end.
He's got that potential for sure, but he's got to prove it to me.
Okay. You then also have Devontae Adams at 11. At that rate, Minshew should actually be a pretty high quarterback on a list. Because if both of those guys are getting enough targets and paying it off, that's kind of going to be a decent offense.
Do you think that
so? That's a little correlation I see. What was the other one I was just seeing? Same thing with like Stafford. I think Stafford should be higher on your list, especially if Puka and Kupp are both first-round wide receivers.
I don't think either quarterback are going to be top 12 quarterbacks.
See, that's hard. That's the correlation that's hard for me to think. Like, if I've got 2 targets that can be top 10 at their position, I feel like the quarterback has to be at worst like 14 to 12 in the league.
Donnie kind of mentioned, though, maybe AOC starts like 5 of those games.
I could see how Minshew
and Stafford's injury prone. We know that.
If that's the case, then I would honestly have like Kupp lower. I would honestly have Bowers lower.
I don't think there's other tight ends below Bowers, at least 13 and below, that I could justify putting there, because somebody else besides Devontae Adams up the field has to catch the football. That's not a running back. It ain't going to be Zamir White. Dylan Laub is going to need time to get used to the NFL. Alexander Madison ain't doing shit. He's just going to be a crappy change of pace guy. And Amir Abdullah, I don't know how much has left in the tank. So
Jacoby Myers is not a deep threat.
Jacoby Myers, I like him a lot, but
He's
I don't.
a good just catch guy, slot guy.
That's
I mean,
the thing, though.
It's going to be Trey Tucker otherwise.
The thing, though, is especially with tight end, like they don't really have to actually be used up the middle. They could just go with a couple wide receivers. They could just hand it off way too much, especially with young quarterbacks or Minshew who's doing crap. Like, there are bad offenses where, like, the tight end did absolutely nothing and is ranked 70th.
But in a Luke Getsy offense, I'm not going to count on anything cute in this offense. Like, I don't think they're going to get creative with guys like Trey Tucker. I think this is going to be a plain vanilla offense like we saw with the Chicago Bears last year, and I don't expect anything fancy out of Brock Bowers. So I think he's going to get enough volume to justify being the tight end 12 in drafts. In addition to, I mean, I'll get back to Trey McBride in a little bit here too, but I'm just a little lower on McBride compared to other guys, just because I'm not in love with the Cardinals offense. But I think McBride is definitely a top 5 tight end.
So no tight end sweeps for Brock Bowers.
See, that's the other thing. Like, that would be another correlation. That's like, you still had Kyler as a top 10 quarterback or top 12 quarterback, and you still had Marvin Harrison Jr., and you have McBride here. But then so if anything, of all of the like shaky offenses that you seem to have guys in your top list, which again, I didn't disagree with any of the rankings on your list. But when you put it like this, where you show me each position and I get to look at the little like correlations, it's like, okay, this is where it's like, I look at it and it's like, well, of all of these offenses that you've got 2 pass catchers to go with a quarterback from your top 12 list matching, the one I trust the most is probably Dallas. Because you didn't have wide receivers.
Dallas are not a good sentence together.
That's the thing, because like you didn't have wide receivers for Kansas City, Baltimore, or Buffalo. Nothing against Detroit, Laporta and Amon-Ra and Goff. All that should still be really good.
Yep.
Like, no disagreement on any of that.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, and Gibbs was on there. Like, I think if anything from this list, it's like you or projections or whatever, people are really high on Detroit this year, which maybe this is their year after that loss last year. Like, that's the kind of thing that you do. You come back, you win the whole thing this year. Or lose to Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's also the thing.
I usually do love teams that are younger, which I do consider Detroit pretty young, who get their first playoff experience, deep run, and then the second year they come back and they just go crazy.
So so speaking of Matthew Stafford, he did finish as the quarterback 15 in both PPR and half PPR leagues last year, which is why I don't have Stafford in my top 12.
But that was him missing like 3 games, didn't he?
There's that, and he didn't even make it to 4,000 yards. He only threw 24 touchdowns and 11 picks. And I don't have his sack numbers in front of me here, but it was a bit of a weird offense last year. He missed 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah, he missed 2 games.
And he did hit 4,000 yards somehow, but Puka, one of his receivers, had a rookie record.
He had like 1,500 yards or whatever it was.
Kupp definitely was hurt most of the year, so he didn't really have a secondary weapon to throw to.
Yeah. So I'm not ready to put Stafford in the top 12, at least not this year. I'm wondering how much he has left in the tank.
But my thought is, like, let's say both Kupp and Puka are top 10 wide receivers this year.
Yes.
Do you not think then Stafford, barring missing games, probably makes that top 12 instead of being 15?
No.
If both Kupp and Puka have that kind of top receiving instead of just one of them? Like
I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I'm not banking on it right now at this point in the season.
Okay. That's the only thing. Like, those are the correlations I've been looking at in like rankings when I like check eight, because like that's the only thing to look at in the top rounds is like, okay, where are people ranking people? What does this tell me about their like looking at different rankings from different people? What does this tell me about their trust in offenses? And like,
but that's why I'm really
normally, and then I'm basing it off my opinion, where it's like I am high. I agree, Detroit should be very good. I'm actually very high on Dallas. That's why I would have CeeDee Lamb right behind McCaffrey. But that means, in my mind, I would probably also have Ferguson right there with Kittle and Ingram.
And I basically do, but I just have Pitts in between them because I think we're finally going to see Kyle Pitts get more volume.
And I might literally there's worlds where like I would totally be fine taking Ferguson as like the 6th tight end off the board.
I would not.
Like there are like if I really think Dallas is going to be good, like I have Dak, like maybe, like I could see doing that. Like I'm not as high on Pitts. I think the talent is there. Do I trust them to actually use it? Because most teams honestly do not use tight ends all that much unless they have an elite one.
I'll disagree with that. Targets are going to more tight ends these days where, well, it's not like the Colts who can't figure it out or the Bengals who can't really figure it out. I have to trust the talent with Kyle Pitts here. I think there's a strong chance he returns to his rookie form.
Well, the last time we saw Kyle Pitts do extremely well was before Arthur Smith and with Matt Ryan.
Exactly.
And I do think it matters that he hasn't had a guy like Matt Ryan.
Yeah, and now he's got Kirk
the ball if he's out there. Yeah, Kirk will get him the ball.
He likes his tight ends too.
I mean, you're not wrong.
That's what I love about this conversation, though, is like we have so many opinions. We want to get them all out there, and we're not really stepping on each other's toes here. But I love how Gov always says, in this world, you're presenting a world, you're presenting an orbit, a universe that's going to happen. But I honestly want to know how you could have 2 Rams wide receivers that high and not have Stafford higher in the ranks. Like what universe do they both have that ranking or that projection, but then Stafford
that's
not?
The thing. Like that's my thought. Like last year you had Kupp getting hurt, so you didn't have 2 guys doing that. But like in a world where both Puka and Kupp are in the top 10 or top 12 of wide receivers at the end of the year, like that means both of them have what? 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. So there's
only 1,000 more yards?
How does a 2,500 yard, 20 touchdown floor make Stafford a top 12 quarterback?
Well, so Logan, I did just explain that like 5 minutes ago. I don't know how much Stafford has left in the tank at this point, and I think there are other quarterbacks that have stronger upside compared to Stafford at this point in his career. Where, I mean, he finishes the QB 15 even with 2 games missing, but I don't think it's enough to crack the top 12. I think he's still at least a top 15 quarterback for whatever that's.
No.
Okay. Well, my thought here is, which one of Puka or Kupp would you be willing to say, like, I don't know, downvote?
Your rankings are wrong then.
Because that's the thing. That's me and Logan. Like, me and Logan are kind of on the same thing. Like, if you have Puka and Kupp in your top 10, like, just knowing what kind of yardage and stuff they would have to get to be there, unless you don't think Stafford is the quarterback the whole year, he would do
which is a strong possibility.
He would do better than he did last year.
A very strong possibility that he's not the quarterback the whole year.
But our thought is, like, if you realistically project, I know, but like realistically projecting it, if Kupp is healthy all year, which he wasn't last year, and he's having the kind of top 10 season, and you still get like maybe not like the rookie record season, but another top 10 wide receiver season from Puka, that kind of leads to the quarterback being almost top 10 himself.
Right. It's
in most situations, which is why, like, if you truthfully think that, like, and like in my mind, if Stafford is not the quarterback most of the year, and like maybe he only misses 1 game, or like if he's, I don't think he's missing games, but like if he's missing games, I honestly think that if that's what you believe, you should have like you should have a different wide receiver than Kupp in the top 12, and Puka should probably be behind London. Like you shouldn't be as high. You shouldn't be as high on them. Although you aren't as high on Puka as other people. Other people are taking Puka ahead of AJ Brown. So like I'll give you that.
Which is insane.
But I like if in my mind Stafford's a top 12 quarterback if both of these guys are top 10.
But
I don't concede, like Logan saying, I don't concede the world. But like apparently you can, because you can see a world where they still both go off and are healthy, like where both the receivers are healthy all year, but Stafford isn't. So the receivers still get there because whatever crappy quarterback comes in and still gets it to Kupp and Puka.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Stafford is going to get injured off the bat, because nobody is injured until they prove it. But Stafford being as beat up as he has been, he was reported to have a hamstring issue. He's back in team drills. He's at least able to play. And then in addition to just all the beat up stuff he's had just from having bad offensive lines over the years and just wear and tear playing for the Rams. I'm not, and like I said, though, I'm trusting the talent with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, no matter who's throwing to them, even when Jimmy Garoppolo comes back from suspension and starts chucking the ball to them in Sean McVay's system. But I'm not ready to put Stafford or tell people to draft Stafford as a top 12 quarterback, considering that the offense is not functioning as smooth as it once was, despite the talent being there. They've got their top 2 wide receivers, and that's really about it. So I don't see enough upside with Stafford to put him as a top 10 quarterback, which I would much rather tell people to draft guys like Purdy and Love over Stafford at this point.
See, I think Jordan Love has definitely like the safer floor out of like between him and Stafford, but I think Stafford definitely could have a better year just ceiling wise.
And I said that before, yeah.
It's that's the thing. I think Purdy and Love are the 2 guys that you have at the back end who are your safer floor guys. But like if I truthfully think that Puka and Kupp are top 10 guys, I probably think Stafford has his ceiling and I would put him ahead of one. Like this is where like I probably drop Brock Purdy out completely and put Jordan Love at 11 and then Stafford at 12. But like that would be like the minor change I'd make, just because I would have both Kupp and Puka. Like in my mind, if Stafford misses 3 games and even if it's Jimmy G, I think that's a remarkable down play in quarterback. Like
it's not
Stafford
even just
is still a legit quarterback.
Kyron's pretty high too.
I was about to say I also am pretty high on Kyron. I do think Sean McVay's system shows that like he will use the running back. The running back will get touches. They will get carries. They will get schemed in. So,
yeah, but Kyron does not catch a lot of passes either. So that's another reason to lower Stafford.
He did have a couple like solid 5-6 target or 5-6 catch games.
Yeah, he spiked last year.
When they have to force it to him, yes.
Yes. So like I don't think like Kyron won't, but like McVay will scheme what they need to scheme every week. If running back screen is a weapon against this defense, then Kyron will get 5 targets, 6 targets, no problem.
But to Evan's point now, I understand, because he's saying a world where Stafford or one of the starting quarterbacks will get hurt, because we do know that Stafford does throw to running backs a lot.
And there have been and we did look up, like there's only been, like I forget who it was. Did I look it up with you guys or did I look it up? I might have looked it up with my dad. Did you know that in the last 2 seasons, there are only 2 quarterbacks that have played every single game?
That is an insane stat.
Do you know who those 2 quarterbacks are?
One of them is Jared Goff, isn't it?
One of them is Jared Goff. That is correct.
I'll see if they have the 2 years.
2 years.
Jordan, I think Jordan Love played all the games, right?
No.
Sat 1 week.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I forgot he was out.
1 week he sat just to not be the starter.
I'll guess again if Donnie doesn't get it here.
Okay.
It's actually kind of obvious.
I think I got it.
Josh Allen.
Nope.
Really?
No, hold on.
It's Mahomes, isn't it?
No.
There you go.
Is it? I'm thinking of Mahomes' injury from a couple of years ago then.
Because he was still playing on that bum ankle.
He was, you're right. But I figured they sat him. I just, in my mind, it looked so bad, I figured they sat him a week.
He was practically forcing himself back out there. He refused to sit.
Yeah. Did they have a bye week in between it, though?
I think that was when he rested that ankle, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what it was. That's what it would have been for me. That just made me...
Yeah. So so back to this. This is where I'm at on tight ends this year. I'm higher on Pitts. I'm higher on Goddard, and I'm lower on Njoku than you guys because I do not like the passing offense for the Cleveland Browns. I like Njoku as a red zone threat, but I don't think it's enough to crack the top 10.
I would literally the only difference I would make is just moving Njoku up 1.
You're the lowest outside of Evan and David. I have David inside my top 5.
Well, that's just foolish then.
It is okay. My bad. It is Josh Allen. It was
Josh.
Mahomes, Mahomes is the one that week 17 game. My bad.
I was looking, dude. I couldn't think of any games that Josh Allen's missed, and I always harped on Josh Allen early career that his play style would not lead to him not being able to last. But I guess he's not diving as much into heads and stuff. So,
but if people
have a real bad turtle problem.
Now, let me move forward with this though. I'm doing defense and special teams, as I know how much people love this bullshit.
Jesus!
I do. I love
Put it back
defense.
up, Logan. We got to talk about it. It's
defense.
the stupidest part of
you motherfucker.
This is redraft.
My favorite part of
You better have kickers next. You better fucking have.
Kickers aren't people.
I didn't call them people. I called them kickers.
Okay.
Logan, he's gone.
Hi, Logan. So anyway, Cowboys, they have their unquestioned playmakers. They have to prove to me that they're going to not score the top points in fantasy football for 2024 as well. Ravens, 49ers, Chiefs, I still think are a strong DST, even though L'Jarius Sneed is now a Tennessee Titan. Having Chris Jones coming back is a big re-signing.
I would have the Browns ahead of the Chiefs. The Browns are going to be a legit top 5, top 2.
I like what the Browns have as far as a defense, but to me, they're better at defense in real football than they are for fantasy football. Their playmakers don't score as many points, but they're still a top 5 DST as far as I'm concerned. And then you have Steelers, Jets. I have a little lower just because
I have the Bills up here this high. Like their defense hasn't really done much or gotten that better the last few years.
They replaced their secondary that I don't know it will be elite, but I think it'll at least be enough where they have guys I think they still have Matt Milano out there if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but
I saw a report that DeMar Hamlin might be starting this year.
Yeah, so he'll be the starting safety. I don't know if he particularly is much of a playmaker, but I think the Bills will at least have enough plays on defense to be a top 10 defense.
I can tell you one thing. He's not a playmaker when it comes to fake punts.
Well,
go to Buffalo.
There you go. I'm a little lower on the Jets because I think just based on the Jets jetting, the defense. I think there will be a lot of times when the defense has a hard time getting off the field because, well, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be enough to make the offense as much better as they've been over the years. But I think they still have enough playmakers to be fantasy relevant.
The thing is, Rodgers is going to keep the Jets defense off the field because Rodgers won't make stupid mistakes.
Right. And that's how he will keep them on the field when it works out. I've yet to see if this Jets offense will be as good as he had it in Green Bay. That's the thing. So then I'm back higher on the Eagles than a lot of people because hallelujah, Matt Patricia's gone. They're not going to be undercoached. Texans, Colts, and then I'm lower on the Dolphins than a lot of people as well. I don't think the Dolphins defense has enough playmakers to convince me they're going to be a top 10 DST, but I think they can sit firmly at 12.
The thing about the Dolphins defense, honestly, a lot of teams, if your offensive firepower is too much, then it does become a hindrance.
Yeah.
So with the Dolphins being so offensively oriented, and they're going to have those 49, 42 games.
But the thing is, in those games, usually when it's 49-42, the defense has a score or two.
I love that Logan still hasn't come back.
It's perfect. Do you have kickers to put up?
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's how we review the kickers. All right, Brandon Aubrey is going to average what 3.5 points per game, and Jason Myers will average 2.
In my mind, this should literally just go by what offenses you think are best. From what I've seen with all the rankings, we don't have the Detroit kicker number 1, and this is just not even the right rank.
Where's the kicker?
The Detroit kicker is going to have the most points, most extra points. What? Who's the Rams kicker? I forget.
I don't even remember who the Rams kicker is anymore.
Isn't that Matt Gay?
No, he's on the Colts.
So you think the Rams are going to be a good offense and their kicker can't score?
I think he's going to be hitting a bunch of pats and not a bunch of field goals.
Dude, I hate kickers so much in fantasy. It's so stupid. They need to just die out and just add another flex.
I love kickers because it's not real fantasy football if you don't include kickers and defenses of some sort, whether it's DST or IDP.
I love defense. I hate kickers.
But
you don't have Brett Maher in your top 10 with the
Brett Maher's. Yeah. Well, who does he play for?
That's the Rams kicker.
It's Brett Maher. Are you serious?
Yeah.
They also have a rookie named Joshua Carty.
Where is Dicker the kicker?
How is he going to get field goals on a terrible Charger team?
He has a funny name.
I mean, I would have loved to put Dan Carlson back on here too, but what hurt his value last year was that the Raiders offense couldn't get forward on the field, so he wasn't even a top 12 kicker.
No one's a top. The difference between the 12th kicker and the 32nd kicker is literally 0. So, cool. Kickers don't matter.
Oh, yes, they do, and I'm making them matter, baby, even if this tweet only got 123 views so far.
And it should stay that way. 123 people wasted their time reading it.
Oh, no, they did not. Can I make a serious point, though, really quick?
As long as it's serious.
Yes.
No, first of all, I did not mean to take your screen down when you showed defenses. I literally...
Oh, it's funny.
I hit the headphones hit the keyboard so hard because I tried to pull out so fast. I have no interest. I hate being fake or selling you something I don't like. The only defense that matters is Sunday Night Football in a couple weeks when I have to choose one for captain mode, maybe. But here's the serious take. I love that you care about this, Evan. I heard it a little bit. You said something about liking defense and kickers and all that. I like that you took time to actually break it down because I have no interest. I wouldn't spend 5 minutes doing this. And I guarantee you, one of the few fantasy podcasts that actually spent serious time breaking down kickers and defense. So congratulations, guys.
The big fantasy shows will still cover them, but they're not going to spend a lot of time on them.
No, but it's spoken like a true DFS player. Fuck kickers and the cheapest defense.
I told you I'm transparent, man.
Good thing I forced Logan to jam in a defense every week.
No, by the way, I'll be honest. The last time I played season long, I did not draft a kicker in my draft because it did not force me. And my thought process was, I'll get a kicker when I have a tough matchup that week. Until then, I want the extra roster spot for a development running back. Like, for example, if I was to draft a season long this year, I would probably take Vidal or J.K. Dobbins just to have him on my roster in case Jim Harbaugh decides that's the guy, and then that guy's off the waiver wire. And unless I needed the kicker, I'm definitely not drafting one early. But in all honesty, I'm glad that you broke it down because we might be the longest podcast to ever talk about kickers in the last 5 years.
That's not true, Logan. But I mean, we did hard.
You don't watch podcasts.
You were pretty mean about it. I will say.
No,
that.
I will say we probably had a good 30-second reel of content on this that you can flip out.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go through and rewatch it, Logan. Sorry, you're gonna have to get a short out of it.
Probably the part where it's like you don't have Brett Maher on here. Brett Maher. That's probably the clip right there.
Logan, you have to clip yourself just wheeling yourself away. That's the clip right there.
That's it. You clip us talking about Brett Maher, and then you clip you just wheeling out of the room.
I'll put it to you this way, guys. If all 3 of you disappeared at once, I'd probably cry.
No, in all honesty, that was a total accident, and that was me hitting the keyboard. But it's a perfect time for me to timestamp when that happens. So now I know.
man.
I could unfortunately hear some of it still through my headphones, but I did get a nice coffee break.
Yeah,
I mean,
Logan hates my ideology on defense when it comes to fantasy. I know that.
honestly, though, I mean, even when I played season long, I would honestly take the extra roster spot on a development guy.
I do like. I'm not worried about the 3 points on kickers that much either. If I feel it, I don't know.
Unless I know it's a close matchup, like if it's a championship matchup and like we're playing in a
if it's
league,
if it's the playoffs, then you might as well just take the points.
I'm not. I mean, some of that was dramatic effect to be funny to clip a moment so you guys could have a good laugh. But I'm not even like unless there's money on the line or there's like real value, and I'm like, I need this 5 points. I'm not taking a kicker. I'll take 0 on purpose. I have no problem with that. I would say though quickly, this is probably the biggest difference though in redraft rankings and best ball. Just to point that out again, is in best ball you take 20. You're taking 20 rounds, and they're actually players. Where when you have to draft kickers and defenses, you're taking less chance on development guys. Like a guy like Tracy for the Giants, when he got injured, best ball guys went crazy on Twitter. And there was guys that do redraft leagues that had no idea who Tracy was.
Did you hear what Tracy's new nickname is in the Giants locker room?
See, again, only a best ball guy knows that, Donnie. Go ahead.
It is Paul Pierce.
That's a horrible nickname. Oh, I'm sorry.
Carded off.
Sorry. Actually, I'm sorry. I mistook him for Paul Perkins, who was a terrible Giants running back. So my mistake.
Yeah, Paul Pierce, because he had to get carted off for nothing.
He had to take a shit. What are you talking about?
Now we are.
He got carted off for some serious shit, dude.
Emphasis on the serious.
We are an hour in, but I do want to mention, I mean, I could go another hour of how I don't value redraft leagues and how I just think like the best return on investment is daily fantasy, so you can have that money quickly and turn it around. But it's also kind of the argument I have against the sports book and future bets, but maybe we can get into that later. One of the things that I definitely wanted to ask you, because you're so plugged into these redraft leagues, Evan, that really drives me nuts, is so some of my friends don't want to play for money, right? They can never agree on a money amount. Like, oh, we're playing a league for $50 or $100, but it's either too high for some people or too low for some people to care, right? And the whole idea is if you have a buy-in, then you buy the commitment, right? You buy the interest. But then people can never agree. So then we've done this weird thing in recent time. I don't know if it's our generation or Donnie's generation to blame, but it drives me nuts. I'm totally out on redraft leagues when people do well, if you're the last team in the league, you got to do something embarrassing or stupid. I hate that idea. You can miss me with that stuff.
And punishments have always been a thing, I feel like.
Yeah, every league is going to be different with how much they're going to charge for the entry fee or what's the punishment for last place. It's just between you and your group of friends. It doesn't have to be uniform.
Okay, but that's my point is if it's not uniform, then how do you get people to agree? I'm being serious because like I've heard some ridiculous things for, especially I want to focus especially just to have a bit of a laugh, but be somewhat serious. Like some of the punishments for last place in leagues, it's just something absurd.
I will say I don't like fantasy football punishments in general because it is so luck based, but the funniest one I think that is popular is the Waffle House one.
Remind me what the Waffle House one was?
Where they have to stay inside a Waffle House for like 24 hours or whatever.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
I do think that one's funny. And then what does it go with like something about how many waffles you eat can change how long you're in there or something? I don't know.
I saw that. Yeah.
That's the right amount of kind of fun banter. Like that would be cool. I would join a league like that. But Evan, you must have seen it though. Like, where's the line for you? Because I've seen some really egregious ones. I know you take this stuff way more serious than most people. So, like,
I don't know. Maybe I've been in more boring leagues compared to other people, but I've never been in a league where somebody has to do something ridiculous as a last place punishment or anything like that. But I mean, to decide on an entry fee really is based on taking the temperature of the comfort level and and seriousness of everybody in your league. Like I've been in a keeper league where the entry fee is $100 and the winning pot is 600. And I've been in leagues where the entry is 50 and you get like something like actually I forgot what first place was, like something like 300. It's just you just take the temperature of the people and see what they want to do with it. And I actually last month I saw a fantasy football punishment in person. I forgot to mention on the show too. I was visiting my brother in the suburbs and somebody set up a lemonade stand next to the train station that I got off at with the banner in front that said, I lost my fantasy football league, and he had to sell lemonade to just anybody willing to walk by. I wish I had stayed to talk to him, though.
That is a good punishment, too.
Exactly. I regret not stopping to talk to him.
Did you at least, you didn't buy any lemonade?
No, that's why I regret it. I wish I had.
See, I don't mind the like emotional storyline as long as you have fun with it. I just feel like a lot of leagues take it too far. I kind of like the punishment where it's involved in the league, where if you finish last, you get the last pick in the draft. You have to pay an extra, a punishment, basically a waiver punishment to get some fat money back. I've heard of some interesting things like that. But some of these embarrassment punishments go too far, in my opinion, and that's
with anything you could argue.
Like I said, take the temperature of your league and see what people are open for. There are friendships that are willing to do stupid shit. I don't know, like last place has to. Did you have one, Donnie? Sorry.
Yeah, a bad tattoo if you lose or something stupid. That's dumb. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of dumb people in the world, so
you have to dye your hair to look like the helmet of your favorite team.
Oh, I'd fucking do that.
Logo on the side of the head, too.
That's at least a silly one where it's
I'll give you an example that got out of control. So my friend...
It's fine. I just tell everyone my favorite team is the Browns, and I don't have to dye my hair at all.
So my friend knows me very well. He knew if there was no value on the line, then I wasn't interested. And I'm not just talking money. I want to play for charity. I want to play for something. There has to be something that I value for me to care. So he's like, well, if we did a punishment? I'm like, well, punishments are hard because then everyone has to agree on it, right? So it's not just let's do something fun and embarrassing. It was let me do something that, a tattoo that's permanent. But not only that, I'm going to make it so egregious and so embarrassing that no one will agree to this. And I'm just like, dude, what's the point? You're wasting your time. You say that money is hard to come up with, $50 is too much. But when we talk about, one of the bets was not only the tattoo, Donnie, it was the loser had to get the tattoo of the winner's name on him. We did that.
Yeah.
That stuff is, beyond, the pale of humanity to me. Why? Even if you did that, why? Is that a fun story to tell at the barbecue with your in-laws, or what? What are you looking at?
That's the response.
Right, that's my point with value. It's what do you gain from that? I get it if it's a fun little story. Honestly, if I saw a guy with a lemonade stand, I'm like, that's a cool story. If you stop and have that conversation, you might have that memory forever. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this podcast, is create memories and give you the emotional reason why. With that being said, though, I want to get out of here on this. In a couple weeks, I think next week even, we might be starting to talk some DFS lineups. And I really do think the sandbox that we got in our Discord, where these guys can just have free reign, will be an interesting kind of pillar discussion, because I'm going to bring them up each week. And sometimes Donnie even mentioned that he's not even going to use it. So when I pull up Donnie's, there might be nothing in there week to week. So
I like to just say my thoughts.
I was about to say, I normally write my stuff down, so I don't.
I just go with the flow.
I think this is going to save you guys, though, because you guys know this. When we would watch our NFL channel, my comments would just blow up. I'd be talking to myself, it looked like sometimes. So now I have a nice little place I can put all my crazy thoughts and then reflect back, because that's how I build as well. So I do think it'll be a fun kind of compare and contrast. But with that being said, good night, guys. By the way, thanks, Evan, for that, by the way, because we kind of put you through the ringer there. But I think it was an interesting conversation. It wasn't a shouty television moment either. I thought we had some real education behind that.
You still aren't worth it.
You just hurt my feelings multiple times, Logan, shitting all over my redraft love. How dare?
Well, I'm I'm a gentleman. When I want to go to the bathroom and I just think you're going to talk shit, I'll leave the room, and that's what I did. When we're talking defense and kickers, I left the room. So I'm a gentleman.
And Doctor Who still sucks, Logan.
Everyone, 3, 2, 1, everyone bail on Evan.
End of show.